In the small town of Tingley in England, a bizarre and chilling case emerged that left investigators puzzled. Zigmund Adamski, a middle-aged man, mysteriously vanished only to reappear days later, lifeless on top of a coal heap. With unexplained marks and a web of intrigue surrounding his fate, the strange case of Zigmund Adamski continues to baffle investigators and ignite theories of otherworldly involvement. Hi folks, I'm Johnny and welcome to The Oddest. You know, I like to cover all sorts of weird and wonderful cases on this channel. This one, however, is one of the strangest and, in my opinion, lesser known cases. What makes it so strange? Well, when we look at the evidence, it truly does seem like there's only one explanation, and it's not from this planet. Let's pop across the border to the quaint village of Tingley, nestled in the beautiful West Yorkshire countryside of England, where there lived a coal miner named Zigmund Adamski. Zygmunt, originally from Poland, had spent most of his early years in his homeland. However, in 1960, at the age of 37, he and his wife Lottie made a life-changing decision to relocate to the United Kingdom. They were eager to embark on a new journey together, seeking a fresh start. Upon their arrival, Zygmunt and Lottie quickly made new friends and seamlessly settled into the charming rhythm of small-town life in rural England. They were known as a wonderfully content couple, never seeking confrontation and always radiating happiness. Little did anyone anticipate the mysterious turn of events that would soon unfold. Even to this day, his case remains unsolved, leaving behind unanswered questions and a lingering sense of intrigue. On a sunny afternoon on the 6th of June in 1980, Zygmunt, aged 56, left his home on foot with a simple errand in mind: to buy groceries from the local shop. Before embarking on his roughly 1-mile journey into town, he engaged in friendly chat and banter with several neighbours on the way, soaking in the pleasant atmosphere of that peaceful summer's day. Everything appeared to be normal. However, little did Zygmunt, his wife, or anyone else who knew him suspect that this would be the last time they would see him alive. See, Zygmunt never returned from picking up those groceries. He had simply vanished. Well, that wasn't until about a week later Zygmunt would reappear. Everything was not normal. It was 5 days later, on the 11th of June, when a shocking discovery unfolded. Zygmunt's lifeless body was found in a coal yard located in Todmorden, a distance of over 20 miles from his home. It was Trevor Parker, the son of the coal yard owner, who stumbled upon this tragic scene. It was around 3:45 PM as Trevor was opening the compound gates to prepare for his afternoon shift. Then he spotted a man's body resting on top of a towering 12-foot coal pile. Instantly realising the gravity of this situation, Trevor wasted no time and promptly alerted the authorities. The officer that received the call was Constable Alan Godfrey of West Yorkshire Police. He made his way quickly to this location. I mean, when the dispatcher told him that a body had been found on a coal pile, he must have figured, that's definitely not a normal call for this quiet area of England. So the constable arrived at the coal yard at approximately 4:10, where he met Trevor Parker, who in turn directed him to a massive coal pile. After PC Godfrey saw the clearly deceased man laying on top, he called in the big dogs. I mean, he didn't actually call in dogs. I mean, he called in backup, other officers, crime scene techs and CID. Like any police investigation, statements were taken. In this case, the first statement to be taken was that of Trevor Parker's. After all, he was the one that had found this unsettling scene. But his answers, well, they made no sense. When questioned, he revealed that he had last been at that coal yard around 11 AM that morning, emphasising that there had been no sign of Adamski's lifeless body during his earlier visit. I mean, that's something that you would notice right away. Parker asserted that he had dutifully closed and secured all the gates before leaving, unaware of anyone else having entered the premises since then. This revelation hinted at an unsettling possibility, that the body must have materialised at some point during the intervening 5 hours. Constable Godfrey wasted no time and swiftly called for an ambulance as he arrived at the scene. The paramedics quickly determined that Adamski had suffered a massive cardiac arrest. However, upon closer examination of the circumstances surrounding his demise, a series of suspicious details began to emerge. These ominous factors led the authorities to suspect that foul play might be a part of it. The plot thickens as the investigation unravels even more disturbing details. Firstly, and perhaps most unsettling of all, were the discovery of second-degree burn marks on the back of Zigmund's neck and shoulders. These burns were inexplicably coated with a peculiar gel-like substance. Such a chilling observation strongly suggested that someone had attempted to treat these injuries whilst Zigmund was still alive. Secondly, the manner in which Zigmund was found, along with the overall appearance of his lifeless body, raised serious doubts about a death resulting from natural causes. The circumstances simply did not align with a peaceful passing. There were several pieces of the puzzle that, along with Parker's statement, it made no sense. An eerie and perplexing detail that emerged was the peculiar state of Adamski's clothing. It appeared as though his attire had been haphazardly rearranged by an unfamiliar hand, almost as if someone with little knowledge of dressing and clumsily attempted to redress him after his death. His coat, for instance, was buttoned up the wrong way, while his trousers and belt were improperly fastened and left loose, like someone had just pulled them on and never bothered to button them back up. Even his shoes were left untied. To add to this mystery, Adamski's wife later disclosed that the shirt he had worn on that day of his disappearance was now missing as well, along with his wallet and watch. So they had redressed him, but decided to leave off his shirt. Despite the disarray of his clothing, it was noteworthy that the overall condition of his attire was relatively good and intact. This finding effectively ruled out the possibility that he had been lying rough or had been exposed to the harsh elements during the previous 5 days of his absence. This super confusing mix of clothes that were taken care of really well but put back together all wrong, well, it just made the whole thing even more mysterious. Adding to the ever-growing list of peculiarities, one of the most baffling factors was the immaculate cleanliness of Adamski's body. It was as if he had just emerged from a refreshing shower, despite being missing for nearly a week. Astonishingly, he displayed only 1 day's worth of stubble growth, defying the expected signs of neglect. What made this even more strange was the complete absence of coal dust on his skin or his clothing. This effectively ruled out the possibility that he had ascended the coal pile by himself before eventually succumbing to a heart attack. Lastly, and perhaps the most confounding of all, was the absence of any footprints or indications of disturbance on the coal pile itself. There were no trace of anyone climbing it, or any sign that it had been tampered with in any way. Zigmund's lifeless body lay on his back, his face turned towards the sky. The scene gave an eerie impression, as if he had been dropped from above, leaving the investigators to grapple with the mystifying circumstances surrounding his final resting place. The mystery deepened with each unanswered question, leaving those involved in the investigation both perplexed and unnerved. PC Godfrey went on to recount a chilling detail: the expression of terror that was etched onto Adamski's contorted face. This unsettling observation was later corroborated by the coroner, who concluded that Adamski must have experienced intense fear or pain, or both, during his final moments. Through the post-mortem examination, it was determined that Mr. Adamski met his untimely demise between the hours of 11 AM and 1 PM on the Wednesday, the very day that his lifeless body was discovered. Surprisingly, it was revealed that Adamski had eaten well during the period that he was missing, with the exception of the day that he passed away. This just raised further intrigue and questions, as it seemed that he had been taken care of during his unexplained absence. Additionally, forensic examination revealed that the burn marks on his neck and shoulders had been inflicted merely 2 days prior to his death. The mysterious gel-like substance that was applied to these burns was subjected to testing at a Home Office laboratory, yet its exact nature still remained unidentified. Curiously, there were no records of Adamski seeking such treatment at any local hospital. As the investigation unfolded, no clear motive or apparent reasons for Adamski's sudden disappearance could be discerned. The puzzle grew more complex with every revelation, leaving investigators and the community perplexed, eager to unravel the truth behind this haunting and unexplained event. Adamski was widely known as a kind-hearted individual, harbouring no known enemies. His mental state was stable, and he had been eagerly anticipating attending a family wedding scheduled for the day after his mysterious disappearance. As news of this case spread, it was accompanied by a series of peculiar elements that simply could not be overlooked. The presence of strange burn marks on his body further deepened the sense of mystery. Speculation regarding the involvement of extraterrestrial abduction began to circulate, gaining traction in the tabloids in the weeks that followed. Although such notions may appear far-fetched, it remains difficult to completely dismiss them, considering the bizarre circumstances surrounding Adamski's fate. Todmorden and its neighbouring regions have gained notoriety as a hotbed for UFO sightings and unexplained phenomena. The intricate nature of this theory finds further support in the intriguing involvement of PC Alan Godfrey, who would later find himself at the centre of his own alleged alien abduction account. In November 1980, approximately 6 months after the discovery of Adamski's lifeless body, a peculiar event unfolded. PC Alan Godfrey found himself on duty in the early hours of the morning. He was responding to bizarre reports of a strange phenomenon. Witnesses claimed to have witnessed a herd of cows materialising and vanishing in various locations throughout a local council estate. Driving along Burnley Road towards the location of the latest sighting, Godfrey's attention was caught by what initially appeared to be an overturned double-decker bus, and it was roughly 200 metres ahead. He couldn't believe his eyes. Concerned that a tragic accident might have occurred involving a shift bus for local coal miners, expecting the worst, he cautiously reduced his speed to assess the situation. However, as his police car drew closer to the crash, he soon realised that it wasn't a bus at all, and whatever it was hovering above the ground. The object that the police officer was now staring at defied all logic. He simply couldn't believe what he was seeing. I mean, this is the stuff of sci-fi movies, and it's happening right in front of him. He would later describe the object as being more of a diamond shape as opposed to the classic cigar or disc shapes. He said it was very bright as it hovered there, and was estimated to be around 20 foot high and 14 feet wide, and it was spinning silently as it hung in the air. He was confused and scared. His first instinct was to call for backup, for several reasons, but mostly just to get more eyes on this thing. Godfrey attempted to call for backup using both his personal radio and the police radio back in his vehicle, only to find that they were mysteriously non-functional. With no immediate assistance available, he was left with a profound sense of uncertainty. Determined to gather evidence and document this otherworldly encounter, he instinctively noted the time and hastily sketched this peculiar craft. He swiftly sketched the object he was looking at, which took him around 30 seconds, yet as Godfrey finished his sketch and lifted his gaze, the bizarre craft had vanished into thin air. Searching the surroundings for any lingering trace of the craft, he made a terrifying and worrying discovery. His patrol car had inexplicably advanced along the road, moving almost a quarter of a mile from its original position. Bewildered by this strange phenomenon, he glanced at his watch, only to be confronted by another disheartening realisation. Despite the feeling that only a minute had elapsed, nearly half an hour of time had vanished, leaving an unaccounted gap in his memory. To compound the unnerving nature of this encounter, Godfrey would later discover another strange and super creepy detail. The soles of his standard issue police boots showed signs of splitting at the toe, as if he had been dragged along the ground by something. Shortly after this encounter, PC Alan Godfrey returned to the police station, compelled to seek assistance from his colleagues in locating the missing cattle from earlier. Together, they embarked on a search that led them to a rain-soaked field, accessible only through a securely locked gate. Despite the soft ground caused by recent heavy rainfall, there were no traces of any hoofprints to be found. Just like Zigmund Adamski, it appeared as though the cows had somehow dropped into the field. What is it with aliens and cows? You never see sheep getting abducted, do you? Following standard protocol, Godfrey reported his encounter with this strange object that morning. Astonishingly, he discovered that another driver 3 miles further down the same road had also witnessed a mysterious white light and reported it to the police also. However, the subsequent weeks passed without further incident until an unfortunate turn of events would unfold. See, word of Godfrey's encounter with this strange craft somehow leaked to the press, thrusting him and his department into a whirlwind of embarrassment and scrutiny. Despite being an exemplary officer with 2 commendations for his previous police work, Godfrey found himself isolated by his colleagues and gradually losing favour with his superiors. His once promising career was effectively shattered, and he ultimately made the difficult decision to leave the police force. Years later, Godfrey would undertake several sessions of hypnotic regression, a method that allowed him to recall his otherworldly encounter in greater detail. Under hypnosis, Godfrey recalled that he had been blinded by the light and then passed out. He told the hypnotist that when he awoke, he was in a strange room being examined by several small creatures and a tall humanoid figure with a beard. Again, his claims were met with raised eyebrows and derision. As I said earlier, due to his treatment from his fellow officers and superiors, he had to quit the police force. I mean, would this be enough to quit your career? Several weeks after Godfrey's account had leaked to the newspapers and became an international news story, he was called into his inspector's office. There sat a man in a dark suit and tie who introduced himself as the man from the ministry. Carrying a file in his possession, he held Godfrey's sketch of this peculiar craft. Although Godfrey was not allowed to see the remaining contents of that file, he assumed it also contained his full report of the strange events of that day, as well as the sudden death of Zigmund Adamski. The individual instructed Godfrey to swear an oath under the Official Secrets Act, binding him to silence regarding what he had witnessed. Reluctantly, Godfrey had to agree. Over the subsequent days, the young policeman encountered this person on multiple occasions, becoming aware of being followed at every turn. Eventually, Godfrey confronted this guy in a local pub and basically told the man to F off. Soon after that conversation, this mysterious man would leave, never to be seen again. The identity of this mysterious individual remained shrouded. Godfrey, however, holds the belief that he was an agent of the MI5, dispatched to dissuade him from pursuing this matter. Another theory suggests that the stranger may have been a representative of the West Yorkshire Police, sent to caution Godfrey against speaking to the media in order to avoid further attention being drawn to the force, which was already facing significant negative publicity back then due to the Yorkshire Ripper case. Or he was one of the men in black. When later recounting the details of the case of Zigmund Adamski, Godfrey admitted that it was one of the most bewildering assignments that he had ever encountered. While reflecting on his own experiences, he remained uncertain as to whether UFOs played a role in Adamski's demise. However, he did not dismiss this possibility entirely. Fast forward 25 years, and investigators from the British UFO Research Association and other organisations interviewed members of Adamski's family, unearthing some intriguing revelations. Contrary to earlier reports, it was discovered that Adamski had not been eagerly anticipating his goddaughter's wedding. In fact, there had been a deep family rift during that period. A female relative had temporarily moved in with Adamski's family after taking out a restraining order against her own husband. This caused a lot of animosity between the two halves of the family, because the Adamskis were being blamed for taking sides, as often happens during messy separations. In light of these newfound details, two prevailing theories emerged concerning Adamski's whereabouts during those 5 mysterious days. On one hand, some speculate that he was forcibly abducted by the estranged husband of the female relative, held captive in a secluded shed, and subjected to torment, including the application of battery acid. This prolonged ordeal eventually led to his fatal heart attack. In a state of panic, the estranged husband may have hastily disposed of Adamski's lifeless body at that coal yard, attempting to cover up the heinous crime. Nah. There's just too many elements in this case that make this theory redundant. It is puzzling why Adamski, seemingly a neutral party in this whole family feud, would have been targeted for abduction. What purpose would the kidnapping have served? Additionally, the state of undress that he was found in raises further intrigue. Why was he undressed? And what was the mysterious ointment that was discovered on his skin? If his captor had intended to harm him, as indicated by the burn marks, then why would he have applied ointment afterwards? These peculiar details only deepen the mystery. Furthermore, the choice of dumping Adamski's body on top of a massive coal pile in broad daylight definitely raises some eyebrows. Remember, his body wasn't at that location at 11 AM, but was found there 5 hours later. So it was literally in the middle of the afternoon. Why not conceal it in a more discreet location at a less obvious time of the day, or maybe at night time? How did the individual responsible for dumping the body gain access to the secure coal yard without leaving any trace? These questions highlight the complexities of this case and the need for a deeper exploration of the circumstances which surround Adamski's disappearance and then subsequent discovery. The absence of any arrests or charges in relation to the kidnapping adds another layer of mystery to this case. It becomes evident that this theory falls far short of providing conclusive answers. As a result, many individuals turn their attention to the possibility of extraterrestrial involvement. Could it be that Adamski was somehow abducted by beings from beyond our world? According to this line of thinking, Adamski may have been taken by extraterrestrials on the 6th of June as he made his way to the local shop. It is theorised that he was held in a state of suspended animation, explaining the lack of stubble growth and the appearance of good health upon his emergence. Perhaps he was periodically taken out of stasis for examination or other purposes. Overwhelmed by the shock of this otherworldly encounter, it suggested that Adamski suffered a massive cardiac arrest, resulting in his untimely demise. Considering the possible involvement of UFOs raises a host of questions. Were these extraterrestrial beings conducting experiments or observing Adamski for some unknown reason? What was their motive for abducting him? And if these otherworldly entities were responsible, how does one reconcile the peculiar details surrounding his body's discovery and the subsequent investigation? In the depths of the enigma surrounding Zigmund Adamski's disappearance, a chilling detail emerged. See, as the news started to spread like wildfire, it was revealed that not only was Adamski gone, but his prized possessions, that the very essence of his identity, had vanished into thin air. What nefarious purpose could extraterrestrial beings have had for his wallet and watch? Curiously, the accounts of most alien abduction cases hint at a different sort of narrative. While the encounters were undeniably petrifying and occasionally accompanied by unsettling physical discomfort, the captors themselves were often portrayed as somewhat benign, harbouring no ill will towards their subjects. This leaves us to wonder, why did Adamski bear the scars of what appeared to be malicious burns? Could it have been an inadvertent act on the part of the abductors? And if so, what strange concoction did they employ, as its chemical properties defied all attempts of identification by modern science? Perhaps the most confounding aspect of this puzzling ordeal was the manner in which Adamski was unceremoniously discarded on top of a coal heap, bathed in the harsh light of that day. Why would his captors choose such a brazen act, forsaking the shadows where the secrets of their malevolent deeds could forever remain concealed? Was there a tinge of guilt maybe? Maybe it gnawed at their conscience, compelling them to return him to home, to his loved ones? Regardless of how we see this, the mystery surrounding Adamski's fate remains unsolved. While the plausible scenario of a family feud might offer a semblance of explanation, it falls far from conclusive. Indeed, we cannot dismiss the possibility of alternative hypotheses, no matter how fantastical they seem. The truth, it seems, eludes us. A spectre consigned to the annals of history. Just another unresolved case that time's forgot. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoy this type of content, then please be sure to subscribe and remember the wee bell to be notified so you don't miss another upload. Right, on that note, I'm away for a cup of tea. Take care of yourselves, folks. Tell someone that you love them. And always remember, no matter what, keep smiling. It becomes evident that the theory falls far short of when later recounting this case to years later, Godfrey would undertake several sessions of hypnotic regression, a method that followed him speculation regarding the involvement of extraterrestrials it becomes evident that this theory falls far short for